Hello everyone and welcome back to Planet of the Capes. I'm Ardella and this week we'll be looking at a subject that's been surrounded by a lot of controversy in the cosplay community: photographs and copyright laws. I'm keen to give you all the cold hard facts when it comes to copyright law and ownership of creative works, as well as discuss some ways to work within the law when it comes to cosplay. But first, let's have a little context. Recently, a cosplay-focused television show in America went to air. As part of the show itself and of the promotions surrounding it, the network used photographs of the cosplayers featured in the show. As I understand it, permission was granted by the cosplayers to use those photographs, but not by the photographers who took them. Some of the photographers were highly offended by the use of their photographs and claimed they needed to be paid for their work. One even went so far as to threaten a lawsuit demanding tens of thousands of dollars in compensation. Before long, questions of copyright and legality surrounding cosplay were being asked by people all over the world. But what are the facts? Copyright laws vary depending on the country and even state that you live in, which can make matters like this even more difficult to discuss. One law does remain the same throughout though, and that's the fact that the creator of a work, like a photograph, retains the rights to that work. For us in Australia, that means that if you have your photograph taken by a photographer, they retain all the rights to that photo and they can use it anywhere they like without needing your permission. Many people, including myself, believe that when it comes to cosplay photography, it's really a team effort and therefore the rights should be shared. After all, an amazing cosplay photo requires both the talent and hard work of a photographer and the talent and hard work of a cosplayer. So what's the best way to ensure both people have legal rights? Model release forms are common in professional photo shoots, and while many of them tend to reinforce pre-existing copyright laws, it's definitely possible to write your own, which ensures both cosplayer and photographer have equal rights. You'll be able to share your photos on the internet and even sell prints, as long as those terms are listed in your release. Usually this sort of argument doesn't even come up though. Cosplayers and photographers alike tend to be very happy to have their work shared and promoted, as long as thorough and obvious credit is given. That is, until the money problem comes up. When it comes to using cosplay photographs to make a profit, be that through selling prints or even using them to promote your blog or show, be sure to get the written permission of the photographer. If you don't obtain these permissions, chances are you'll be asked to remove the photo. If the owner of the photo wanted to, they could even demand compensation. These are just cold hard legalities though. In my opinion, the way we deal with copyright in reality can and should vary depending on the situation. It's important to remember that as cosplayers, we already tread a fine line when it comes to copyright law. When we create costumes based on already copyrighted characters, we need to realise there are laws in place that do prevent us from profiting off the image of those characters. This is why you'll find many children's birthday party companies offer characters that look nearly identical to Disney princesses and princes, but they're always really careful to give them different names to avoid lawsuits. With me I have Kris Ezergailis of What a Big Camera. Now I understand that some of your photos have been featured alongside articles in magazines. Did you request compensation for that?
Well, no. I'm just happy for people to like what I'm doing and to show more people what I am doing, as long as they mention who I am, so anybody who is interested can come and find me.
Excellent. So do you find that you do get a lot of people coming to you through things like magazines, publications where they've seen your name mentioned?
I'm not really sure where my people come from. I think it comes from mainly the sharing that the cosplayers do. So while magazines and other publishers help, I think it's mainly the online thing.
Okay, and do you find that most cosplayers are pretty good with crediting who takes their photographs?
Yeah, I watermark my images because sometimes they go places you can't expect, but usually the people who I deal with are very, very good with that.
Excellent. And do you find that people at, say, conventions are recognising you from your watermark on images?
A lot of people at conventions don't recognise me. I hand them my card and they say, "Oh, you're that guy. Okay, cool."
I know that some photographers do use model release forms. Is that something that you do?
No. Paperwork scares people, and a lot of people don't really understand that the rights that are released in a model release form are released anyway. And so because I have no intention of selling the photo, it's not really a requirement.
Okay, so you think that model release forms are pretty redundant and all they do is scare people off?
No, they have a place.
Okay.
Whenever money is involved, it's very important to have paperwork.
Alright.
But for fun, it's pretty easy to show intent.
Okay. And for you personally, cosplay photography is obviously just for fun.
Yes.
If a cosplayer was to want to use those photos for something to gain profit, even if it was to sell it on to another media outlet, would you then want paperwork?
Well, yeah, if they approached me and said, we want to sell this image or we want somebody else to sell this image for us, then we would do a release regarding that particular use.
So what if a cosplayer was to want to give those photos to another media outlet, like say a television show or even a blog online?
Well, it depends on their specific use. We'd discuss that beforehand, and then I would release to them the rights for that specific use.
Okay, just for that specific image though, not for all the images you've taken of them?
Would usually pick a few, because there's usually a few that show the best side, and then the specific use and how they'd be credited.
How do you personally feel about other photographers taking legal action against media outlets that do use their photographs without permission?
Well, I understand there is a legal side to the ownership of the images and that people should be compensated for the work that they do. There's been a few things recently which I've really disagreed with. It seems like it's dividing friends against things that they're interested in, and is generally just not in the spirit of cosplay, the way I see it.
Okay, so you see it as turning it into more of an industry than something that is a hobby to share things that people love.
Well, if you do something for fun and then you decide later on that you're going to try and turn that into something for profit, it doesn't really end well.
Okay, in your experience, or have you seen it before?
It just looks like it's dividing so many people.
Okay.
What was originally done for fun, then as soon as somebody gets a slice of fame, everybody wants to clamour for it.
So in your opinion, would it be good if cosplayers and photographers got together beforehand and talked a little about the legal aspects of things before just jumping in and doing a photo shoot?
Well, I always try to have some written communication between us, working out what the photos are of, what they're for, and how they're going to be used afterwards. It's always a good discussion to have, saying, I'm going to put this here, I'm going to put this here, and agreeing beforehand. That way there's no nasty surprises afterwards. That's not to say you can't use a release form to do this. That's probably the better way to do it, but it's not really a big issue for me.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking with us, Kris. It's been great to have you.
Thank you.
Well, you've heard some of our thoughts on cosplay and copyright laws, but now we want to hear yours. Have you had an experience where someone used your photo without permission, and how did you handle it? Let us know in the comments down below, or drop us a message over on the Kapow Facebook page. I'll see you all real soon.